Good afternoon to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is Friday, the 17th day of July 2020. We have a few things to talk about today. A couple of areas to watch over the next several days, but nothing too pressing, nothing to get too worried about, but a couple of signs of change coming up. First of all, let's take a look at this. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies chart. You know, this used to be the NOAA-NESDIS chart. That's what we have called it in the past, and they switched it over. But nevertheless, it's a nice anomalies chart, and I've shown this a lot. You can see all through here, positive anomalies all through here. We have these negative anomalies, departures from normal. And so I wanted to show you, this is what it looks like in a map. And this is what it looks like if you plot it on a graph. This graph here is from tropical tidbits, of course, and this is the Nino 3.4 area. And so where is that exactly on the map? Well, let me show you this real quick. Basically right through this region, roughly through here, that's what we're talking about, that Nino 3.4 area. And that has cooled off. It came up quite a bit here over the summer, but it's cooled off again in recent days, and now the number is just slightly positive, 0.04. So basically it's real close to neutral. Also, let's look at the main development region, and you see how that has really spiked there in the last several days. It went from neutral. It was very warm back here early on, and then we had some dust and stirring up of the Atlantic through trade winds, etc. Now it's really coming up again, and the value is 0.34, so a little bit more than a third of a degree Celsius above the long-term average. And this is the area that we are talking about, roughly right through here. And you can clearly see how all of this has so much orange and dark orange and whatever all through there. And this chunk of the Pacific here has a lot of blue. And that, again, is the telltale sign of what should be a very active Atlantic and a quite inactive Pacific. So here you go. Numbers are going up, and you can see the space between the plots here is spreading out. So that means it's a pretty rapid uptick. Too bad stocks can't. Well, I guess they are, which that's a story for another day. Depends on what stock you have. Anyhow, yeah, so sea surface temperatures in the main development region, as we expected they might do in recent days, are going up because we've got this sort of westerly wind component where the wind is blowing anomalously from the west, whereas here the winds are stronger from the east. So you have more upwelling, more mixing, more water coming up from below that's colder, whereas here the trade winds are lighter, and there's other factors going on, but definitely just neat to see that you can plot this. Levi does a good job with that, Levi Cowan at Tropical Tidbits, and you can see it in graphical format, not just on a map. All right, so what's going on in the tropics today? Not a lot. The convection is pretty sparse right now, still owed to the fact that we have lots of dry, stable air spread across much of the tropical Atlantic, but there's a few areas of pockets of moisture right off the coast of Africa. Nothing really coming of that. Some moisture in here in the Florida Straits, tangled into the Bahamas in that region. And then a little impulse here trying to rotate its way onshore of Texas. May bring some showers and thunderstorms to portions of the Texas coast and offshore oil interests, but that's about it. The islands down here nice and free and clear of any problems, nothing coming anytime soon. That being said, there is a tropical disturbance that we need to watch as it moves across. You can barely pick it out in the satellite imagery here, so let's go over to the vorticity and see if we can see it. Here's some of these pieces of energy. Almost looks like a fish right there, right? Kind of looks like the outline of a fish, maybe. Trying to draw it. So there's a little piece of energy in here. There's some more energy out here. Little small piece of vorticity up here in the northwest Gulf. And that is about it. But it's some of this energy out across the Atlantic. Maybe here. We'll look at the GFS in a moment, and I'll show you. And some other, a tweet that we're going to show. This is going to try to come across and maybe develop as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe. And other people are seeing that. And this guy Alex here, Cyclonic Weather, WX as it's called, on Twitter. This person knows a lot about what they track as well. In fact, Alex makes some of these graphics himself, knows how to code that. Boy, I wish I learned that. But why? Why would I when I've got all this that I can look at? Anyhow, Alex talking about worth keeping an eye on this large, dry wave, this tropical wave here. In case you don't know what's what, there's Guadeloupe right there. Let's make this a little easier to see with sky blue. So there's Guadeloupe, and here's this dry tropical wave out in the Atlantic. Doesn't look like much now, but it's there. So it's east of the island. So let's see if we can pick it out. So there it is right in there. And that's the energy that I was talking about. And that's what Alex is referencing. And that maybe as it gets into the Gulf, it can amplify a little bit more. This is going out into time about 162 hours. And we look at the GFS, 400 to 700 millibar relative humidity. The blues in there and the greens are more moisture. The browns and yellows and whatnot are less moisture. And then on the 850 millibar vorticity, and we'll show you this on the Tropical Tidbits GFS in a moment. But there it is right there. And I mean, come on. It's got the tropical storm look to it, right? It looks like a tropical cyclone symbol. Yes, and remember Imelda last year, very innocuous looking, a small system, but it ended up being a multi-billion-dollar tropical storm that resulted in fatalities and loss of life. In fact, I'm going to chronicle Imelda on my upcoming series that I'm getting ready to start releasing. I'm going to talk about that at the end here, called the Hurricane Highway. I was there for Imelda. But this system, that's interesting. When you see that look there, you got to admit. So Alex is onto this. There's other people that are watching this. No mention from the Hurricane Center yet. This is still about a week out. And so, it wouldn't quite fit the parameter for a tropical weather outlook to pick up on it just yet. So let's look at it from the Tropical Tidbits GFS here. This is the 12Z run from today, and we can outline a nice big area of high pressure in control over much of the deep south, the western Atlantic basin. And again, this is the same map that we were looking at from Alex there, the 850 millibar level. See? GFS 850 millibar. And this is your geopotential height. That's what these are, these height lines. And this is about 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And we're looking for these little impulses here. There's the other one there. And let's watch as these progress over time. All right, so we see this sliding in, and there's the feature right there. That's it. And you can see the bending of the wind flags right in here. There's the tropical wave. You can identify it right through there. Very easy to see. Well, if you know what you're looking for. So let's move this out, and we're at 48 hours there. It slides in, not too much fanfare with it. Well, it's interesting. It's not that system. Let's go back here. So it's actually the system right there that's near the islands currently, not this system. Maybe the two pile up on each other. But I was watching that, and if you just keep your eyes on this piece of energy right here, that's what seems to go through the Antilles. Watch, see that? Kind of moves through, tangles up over Hispaniola, ends up south of Cuba there, and through the Yucatan Channel. Then it starts to amplify by about day 4, day 5, 4, 5, 6, and then that's the one that Alex was showing, and then it comes into Texas there around a week out. So if we back this up to the current, there you go, there's the analysis. It's just approaching the islands. Again, this is the feature right here, and kind of stays under the radar, so to speak. You see it there. This is about 3 days out. That's it right there. And then it goes on into the Gulf of Mexico. And by day 5, pretty good little signature on it right there. And then day 6, yeah, so we'll see. That could be interesting. And the energy that does pile up, tropical wave energy, that's heat, moisture, even though there's not much moisture currently sitting out here because of the Saharan air layer. Plenty of moisture and available energy the farther west this goes. So we'll have to watch that very closely. All right, speaking of watching, I hope that you tune in this afternoon, late afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or around, I think he said 9 a.m. New Zealand time. My guest on Hurricane U is going to be this guy right here. Ben Knoll, you know him, you love him. We're going to talk about that map right there, what that means, this seasonal forecasting stuff from the models. What does upward motion mean? What does velocity potential mean? What do these colors mean? And kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it and explain what these maps are showing for August, September, and October. That's going to be on Hurricane U. That's our little educational series that we do. It is supported by our patrons via Patreon. They make it possible for me to do this, and so I'm going to make it available at no charge, obviously. And I try to make sure that there's no monetization, but sometimes YouTube puts a commercial on there, but once it's over, I take them out, and I don't monetize that because we're supported by our crowdfunding group, so it's awesome. So anyway, 5 p.m. Eastern. Once I start the stream on YouTube, I'll get the link. It generates the link when we start it, and then I'll put that on Twitter, on our Patreon site, etc., and you can tune in and watch. And of course, if you're a subscriber on YouTube and you have your notifications turned on, you should be notified, right? And then you'll know. Like I said, I've got this new series that I'm working on. It's called the Hurricane Highway. I'm going to talk about that just for a second here. It replaces the Tracking the Hurricanes films. These 2-hour, 90-minute to 2-hour films I've done all the way back to 2004. I wanted something a little different this time around. So it's a look back at the 2019 hurricane season, but it's got a different twist. First of all, it's episodes. There are going to be 7, maybe 8. 7 for sure, maybe 8. We'll see. Maybe a bonus episode. And so we're going to use flashbacks, a look back, down the hurricane highway, this sort of metaphorical and very real at the same time journey through 25 years of tracking hurricanes, right? That my career has spanned 25 years now. And so, for example, the Dorian episode, there's flashbacks to other hurricanes that I've dealt with in the past in that episode, in the same areas. You'll see what I'm talking about. At the very beginning, the first episode, the pilot episode, shows you how I got started in all of this, There's an episode in there about what we do in the off season. And we got a lot of interviews with people, and you'll recognize some of them. It's really nice. And we've done a lot of it just using iPhones, remotely, because I haven't been able to travel, especially March and April like I wanted to put all this together. So I've had a lot of people help me out from around the country, and it's coming together really well. And by the way, it's already available to all of our patrons. It is. So if you're a current patron, I've got 5 episodes done all the way up through Dorian. I'm working on episodes 6 and 7 now. The whole thing I'm going to put on Amazon Prime. I was thinking about making it fee-based, but I'm actually not going to. It's going to be available included with Prime, and I'm going to put it on YouTube as well. This is all coming on August 1st. I'll talk about it more later. But if you're a current patron, it's available right now. Just a little incentive for you if you want to get a sneak preview. The first 5 episodes, the Hurricane Highway, new docuseries that I've been working on. I'm very proud of it. I do the music for it. I think you're going to really like it. And it's different, and it's really good. It's and hey, our current patrons, they love it. And so if you're thinking about joining up on Patreon, it's kind of like Amazon. It's included with Patreon. That's the way I look at it. Developing more original content thanks to our crowdfunding. See how that works? It's more than just a subscription. I keep trying to push that. And anyway, you get the idea. All right, so we'll watch and see what's going on with the potential something another in the Gulf. We'll see. And this afternoon, don't forget, 5 p.m. Eastern, Ben Knoll, my guest on Hurricane U. And if you can't tune in live, no worries. I'll save it in the archives on YouTube when we're all said and done. Have a great rest of your Friday. I'll see you in a few hours. Thanks for tuning in as always. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll see you at 5 p.m. Eastern when we talk with Ben Knoll.